Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Atlanta and Company. I'm Christine Pullara. I am so happy you're here today. I think it is safe to say that the last few months have been so trying for so many. Actually, I think that's an understatement. I mean, first we have this global pandemic that has truly upended our daily lives. It has impacted the health and the economy of our world, our great nation, and now mass demonstrations all throughout our nation in protest of the senseless killing of an unarmed African-American man in Minneapolis, George Floyd. I think it's safe to say we were all absolutely disturbed and sickened by the images of a police officer holding George Floyd's neck down with his knee as he cried out for help. It has sparked outrage, and most importantly, it's time for a change. We have seen that, and that is a resounding voice that is crying out all throughout the nation. Of course, we've seen images of peaceful protests, but we've also seen the images of utter chaos and destruction. First, we want to thank those on the front lines who are managing to try and keep law and order while also allowing people to peacefully demonstrate and get their voices heard. I have been watching it unfold as you have. Just absolutely glued to my television the last several days, glued to my phone. So this morning we thought we'd kind of try and give you a different perspective. We have brought in one of our colleagues, Hope Ford, who has been on the front lines this entire time, right in the middle of all the action. Hope, first of all, thank you for being with us. I imagine you are so exhausted. We appreciate it, and we want to hear from you what has been happening down there. So let's talk about last night. What unfolded, and how are things improving, or are they?
So last night was probably, I've covered it in the past, over the past 5 days. Last night was probably one of the largest crowds that I'd seen really since the weekend. There was a 1.3 massive crowds that kind of came together at Centennial Olympic Park and Marietta Street, where that's kind of been the beginning and the end of all of the protest over the last couple of days. And you know, just as we've seen over the last 4 days, there's, you know, just a lot of people and a lot of different races, a lot of genders, a lot of different age ranges represented out there. And, you know, things as they have been for the past couple of days were extremely peaceful. You know, people were having passionate conversations. You know, they were singing and chanting and dancing. So that was kind of the vibe that was happening last night.
Well, and of course you saw a different vibe on Friday night when things just turned so chaotic. I cannot even imagine what that was like for you. Describe the moment and the real feel, if you would, of what was happening down there when things turned from more peaceful to obviously then the anger, the chaos, and the destruction.
People had been out there, again, Centennial Olympic Park, Marietta Street, more towards the CNN building, and people had been out there for a very long time. And there was a large group of protesters who were getting agitated with the amount of police presence that was there, the fact that they had brought in military vehicles and were pushing back on the crowd. So that kind of started to agitate people, but it was several hours into the night, probably around 7, 8 o'clock at night, whenever the CNN building was vandalized. And shortly after that, that's when a couple of people turned their attention on those police cars and began vandalizing those cars. And from there, after that large group of protesters left, and you were left with that, you know, the few that were left there out of that large group, that's when everything went downhill for the rest of the night.
And what would you say as a Black woman reporting, you know, in the heart of all of this? What has that been like for you on the front lines? Are you finding that people are wanting you to tell the story? Is it? I mean, I imagine it's so hard, and it's our job to be objective. How has this been for you?
It's been difficult. It always is difficult whenever you cover a protest, you know, whenever you cover a Black Lives Matter protest, because, you know, every day I get up and I put on, you know, the journalist hat. But
Yeah.
I get to take that journalist hat off. I never get to take off the hat of being a Black woman. So that is,
Right.
that can be difficult. But you do have to remain objective. But at the same time, you do see these images, and you understand why people are protesting, and you understand, and they do come up to you, and they do want you to be an ally. And they do want you to tell
Yeah.
their story, but at the same time, you still have to remain objective. But it does make it, I guess it does give a little bit of a different perspective, and it does make it a little bit easier to tell their story and to tell it in the correct
Yeah.
way. And when I say the correct way, it's so important to to portray it. Uh, Again, when I say the correct way, it's important to remember that we keep talking about the images from Friday. Those were images from Friday. The last 4 days have not been that way, but it's very easy for those images to become burned into people's minds and think that that's what's
Right.
happening every
Right.
single day. And so that's what I
Right.
mean by telling it the correct way, by reminding people that this was a peace. These last 4 days have been a peaceful protest. That was one day, and the people who will keep returning to protest every day do not condone
Right.
anything that happened on Friday night in Atlanta.
Right. I can't thank you enough, Hope, for being here with us and for telling the story. Please stay safe. We so appreciate your time. Thank you so, so much.